Hi, I'm Bob Henig, the owner of Bob's BMW Motorcycles, this part of my life, and the owner of the Vintage BMW Motorcycle Museum, which we're about to take you on a tour of. So let's go. So welcome. There is literally 5,500 square feet of BMW history here, starting with an example of BMW's first bike, the R32, which is upstairs. And we have a little bit of everything here, from oh my God historic to just cool custom built to excellent examples of almost every era of BMW motorcycles since the very beginning. The museum ends around 2010 because that's where the dealership sort of picks up. We always have something used in the last decade and a half. But here we just have lots of cool motorcycles ranging from late RSs to early /2s in original paint. We've got a rare Isetta here that is powered by a BMW one-cylinder engine. We've got sidecar rigs. We've got pre-war motorcycles. This is a pair of 1929 R57s, one completely restored to a 99 score at a concours, and one in the barn fresh find that I found outside Munich over 40 years ago. Get back into this area of the first floor. We have a couple of bikes that have traveled around the world extensively. We have a bike that also traveled around the world extensively, but in a more unique fashion with his own creation of a trailer. And he literally slept in this. This is the one exception in the museum. This is a rare MV Agusta with one wheel. Behind it, we've got a 1943 example of BMW's R75 military rig with a driven sidecar wheel. We have one police bike. I'm working on another one. This is a very special R1200 GS built for a 4-star general who was a customer of ours for a very long time. And another machine here, a true military grade R12 in one of the couple of colors they produced them in. Notice there's no enamel on the logos on the tank. Okay, so we're going to head upstairs. There's twice as much upstairs as there is on the ground floor. You'd have to be here to understand how that happens, but the second floor is larger. We're going to go up these stairs where there's lots of cool stuff just on your way upstairs, and I'll meet you up top. So we're now on the second floor of the 5,500 square foot vintage BMW Motorcycle Museum. Again, we try to do a very good job of blending old and new. Perfect example would be this 1969 R69S, set up for touring as it was in the day, and a 1993 R100 RT, a much more modern version of a touring motorcycle. Just to give you an example, instead of clustering everything from 1955 to 69 in one area, everything in another era in one era. I'd like to show the comparisons. Here we have 3 different R50s from 3 different years and 3 different colors, all factory colors and all original paint except for the white one, which was restored, and one of maybe 5 restored bikes in the entire collection. Most of what I like to collect are original unrestored motorcycles. We go through the back here. I would be remiss if I didn't point out these 2 bikes, a 1954 R67/2. I was born in 1954. This bike has a fascinating story, which we'll highlight down the road. And then we'll get to this bike eventually as well, because I have a love for /5s, but I was the lucky winner in the BMW MOA Foundation, the charitable end of the BMW Motorcycle Owners of America. And I won that raffle in Wyoming quite a number of years ago. I don't remember what year it was, but we'll tell that story as well, because there's a great history about how that came to be and the people that worked on that bike before I took possession. And so again, we've got bikes that are specifically very important to BMW's history. The R90S here, but right before it, the R100RS. That's a first-year example with the wire spokes and blue pinstriping. We have a Battle of the Legends bike here. This is As Raced, signed by Bart Markle, who was the racer at that time for that series of races. This flashy motorcycle behind it is probably one of the rarest, coolest motorcycles built using BMW parts. It's a Cruiser MKM 1000, and they essentially took brand new BMWs and modified them with different frames, whole different top end for 4-valve technology, and lightened them as well. And this is the oldest cutaway engine we have. This is a factory example of a 1950 R51/2. I happen to be in love with the fact that this one's got a face on the front of it if you look closely. There's even a story behind my friend back here that looks very similar to me, although a little bit younger. Here we have a custom cafe racer built by another fellow dealer and genius down in Texas, the Imperial Bouchon. Just slice and dice and cool parts and make it go faster and make it look cool. We have a near perfect example of a 1990 K1 behind it. We'll get to that bike because that's very special. But clustered back in this corner, we've got a factory Mueller that has a very interesting and documented racing history. One of the prior owners of this was one of the grand champions in sidecar racing in Germany. The very long motorcycle in the back set a land speed record at the Bonneville Salt Flats 2 years in a row with a 750 engine. And we're very fortunate to have that here to share with everyone. Heading down the other side here, we have a tribute bike that I built to honor and make the presentation by Elizabeth Beard, who traveled around the world for 2.5 years as a young woman, a little bit more precise. And we hope to have her back again in the near future. We've got a couple of copies of her books here. And if you're looking for some fabulous reading from a woman's perspective on traveling around the world, find a copy of Lone Rider. It is absolutely fabulous. And now there is a follow-up book that is more pictures and words that's also available online by Elizabeth Beard. We've got a little bit of a history of the R80 GS here, because the R80 GS in 1981, this is a first-year low-mileage, all-original example, was BMW's first off-road bike. At the end of the series, it turned into an R100 GS of much larger proportions. We are looking at my 1925 BMW R32, not a first-year R32, since they started producing these bikes in 1923 and introduced them at the Paris Auto Show and toured the world on end. But this is a very unique example, mostly but not completely original finish, but an original bike in all other senses. And it has a most amazing history, and I look forward to sharing that in one of these segments, or if you visit us sooner. This could easily be the best example of an R90S in Daytona paint. I've had this bike for a long time. It came from an owner that was meticulous in his care. When I visited him to make this purchase probably 25 years ago, he had a 1947 Willys Jeep in his garage that you could have eaten off the top of the engine, and the door hinges in his house weren't any dirtier. And at the end of this grouping, we have a very nice example of the pre-R69S, which is just an R69 from 1959. And this 1973 R75/5 is a brand new bike. I and one of my staff took it out of the crate in 1993. It has never been on the road. The batteries never had acid in it. The gas tanks never had gas. The missing mirror and a few other parts are still in their original wrapping. So let's go into these other rooms and see some of the other stuff that we have here to share. So this first space we're in is a little bit of workshop and display. There's always got to be some place to put the stuff that's coming in that needs to be sorted out, whether they be a whole bunch of models that I didn't have before or a few duplicates, which I'll have to decide which get sold. This is a rare Stibe LT200 delivery box attached to a conversion bike that I designed and built from the days of Bob's Used Parts and early days of Bob's BMW. It's got all sorts of cool stuff on it. We'll come back to that on another time. One of the stories I love sharing the most in this museum is of Dr. Greg Fraser's Round the World 3 Times R80GS. So that small R80GS you saw earlier, beneath this monster is also a 1981 R80GS. And one of my favorite pictures is this little picture here of Greg and this bike at the beginning of the first Around the World trip. And then we have it here, and we've been caretakers for about 20 years now of this bike with his riding gear and all the accessories he used at that time. Occasionally do highlight customers' bikes. This is a beautiful 1973 R75/5 in the bronze color. Curry is what the official name was for it. And we've been displaying this for Ray for a couple years now. He is the original owner. He's taken great care of this bike, and we're proud to show it off. And so occasionally, if you have something you'd like to transport here, we might display it. We've got a beautiful red mid-1950s R25/2 on its way across country right now that was on display in a museum in California for about 10 years, which has closed, and so we'll be the next place to share that bike. These are all personal bikes, but this is a personal machine I ride often. I just put it into the museum after taking out another sidecar rig, which we'll highlight in a future video, and that's a 1997 GG Duetto. You can look it up on the internet. The yellow one is mine. And this rusty and crusty display is one of the rarest bikes in the museum. I'm not going to give you any details now, so if you come and visit us between now and when we shoot a video on it, you'll learn more. But while you're looking at this, see if you can figure out what it might be. So let's go on into the last space here. I like to point out when we come into this room that in the very early days of the vintage BMW Motorcycle Museum, this was where the entire collection sat. A couple display cases, about twice as many motorcycles, a little bit better lighting at the time. We're about to adjust that after a renovation. And but this is the whole place. So we've grown a lot since then. We're very happy to share it all. And we've got a couple interesting bikes in here. For those that know anything about Butler and Smith, the U.S. importer for BMW, the company Lufmeister, a guy named Matt Capri was Lufmeister. He was also one of the engineering and design geniuses at Butler and Smith that helped with the race teams and everything else. He eventually went private, created Lufmeister, and among many other products he designed a turbocharged system, which you see more on the other side, for the R100s of that era. So he put a Krauser fairing on this, his own exhaust, magnesium wheels to lighten up a little bit, and he built two of these. One was for the street and one was for the track. This was the prototype for the street. This bike has about 630 miles on it, really 600 for the break-in. They put all the cool stuff on it, and then so they protected the warranty in case there was anything wrong, and then took it out to the Bonneville Salt Flats and had a couple of runs. Average looking K75 here. Very interesting history behind it. I'll just let out the bag that even though there's a 100,000-mile award sitting on the floor from the only owner this bike had, the bike actually has a documented 1,172,000 miles on it. Right behind it is one of two C1s we have. This is the one that was built as a specific pit bike for the Formula One races, in which Pablo Montoya raced, and you see the Williams F1 team there and all the other fancy stuff. Came with a helmet and a jacket to match. My K12S that I take out periodically, which is fun. This fabulous 2010 HP2, perhaps the sexiest thing BMW ever made, and certainly in this collection. I just put back in the museum after putting 150 miles on it about 2 weeks ago. A great story behind this R75/5 with the Windjammer fairing, and one of just two pieces of luggage built like that for some really long trips. This guy would travel down to Mexico with his friend often and eventually met his former wife. which is why he came back to close to her with this tag on the plate. And so the last thing I'd like to say is that we hope you'll come and visit us, that these videos will be a teaser for you to do just that. We have lots of great hospitality going on every day the dealership is open. As I said, there's another 10 bikes on display there and quite a bit of memorabilia that you can take in every day we're open. Museum tours typically take place 2 Saturdays a month, not specifically every other. So watch our website for the schedule. We do, upon request for good groups, make visits during the week, including nonprofits. We've given lots of people that have nothing to do with motorcycle tours at the museum and love doing that. And if we get through all this stuff in a timely manner, we might head to my garage where there's another 10 bikes and a couple of interesting cars, including a very nice BMW. And thanks for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time in this format at the museum or at Bob's BMW. Hi, I'm Bob Henig. We're at the Vintage BMW Motorcycle Museum. Thanks for watching.